Oh, hi, we're live.
Sure.
Hi,
The
everyone.
weird white wall.
I know the weird white wall, like the White Walkers. Oh, you didn't watch that show?
No.
Okay, but you know
Is
what I
it,
was talking about.
it's on television and there's dragons
And
and
yes,
rape.
that's right. Yeah. Well,
It's good.
kind of. Anyway, hi everyone. It's Tuesday afternoon. We're here in Plano Media Studios. It's so nice outside,
Yeah, what are we doing inside?
but we're here for you, suffering.
Where are you going tomorrow, Nancy?
Where am I going tomorrow? I'm going to. My first stop is Knoxville. I'm getting in my car tomorrow, and I am starting what will be a probably about a 4,000 mile round trip in my new car. I'm going to be going to Knoxville, and then Nashville, and then Tulsa, and then Austin, and then New Orleans, and then St. Augustine, and then Miami, and Key West, and Savannah, and the Outer Banks.
It's not bad.
That's right.
You gonna do any reporting work on your trip?
I think I am going to be doing some reporting work. I am going to be. I think we talked about it a couple of times ago when I was in Tulsa, and I was hanging out with the people making this FX series called Reservation Talks. And I want to just hang out with them and talk about what they're doing because it's pretty spectacular. I wrote about it on my Substack. Maybe I'll stick I don't know, something like a link in here to that. But it's pretty interesting native media making. So I'm going to be doing that. Hey Matt.
Hey, Nancy.
Hey Matt. Hey, where is that song anyway? Where were you going on June 2nd?
Second or third, going down to Miami. Fifth Column podcast, a high quality podcast, is doing a live show. Actually, two live shows in the same night down in Miami. Tickets are snapping up, so good luck getting.
How do people get tickets, Matt Welch?
I don't know, actually. I think
he wouldn't know. He's just a.
If you go to the Patreon website, maybe I don't know if you have to be a Patreon to click on the website.
Patreon is of the Fifth Column.
Yeah, so it's patreon.com/we the fifth. That's probably the best way. It's selling out quick, so like it's a pretty small venue. We're gonna have two shows, really awesome special guests. And like the greatest thing about it all, I think, is besides obviously the podcast, but people are so ready to jump. I mean, we had a party in this room, and you apparently taped a pretty nice little.
Yeah, about a feminine hygiene product. So that's like that was 13 minutes of us talking about that during the party that was here on Saturday, which was, let's just say, everybody came. So
language. No, everyone is like ready to go out in the world and go outside. I know that there's a bunch of you watching this like, dudes, I live in Texas. We've been doing this for months. I know, I get it. Stop bragging. But it's kind of novel in New York, which is glorious right now. Everyone's sitting outside. Just the entire city is brunching all the time. But
this is true.
People are so frantic to go and gather and just like collide and see what's going on, and it's great. It's going to be a very exuberant spring and summer, I do predict.
So since the fifth is doing two shows in Miami, on the third at a club called We the Funny, I think that's what it's
Just
called.
funny.
Just the funny.
Yeah.
Funny. But you guys could give your opinions either here or over on Twitter if you follow us or follow the fifth and say, do you think you want to see more shows this summer from them?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I mean, why not? Let's
where they can...
and where.
Yes.
Because if I recall, you guys were talking about, before the pandemic, or you were going to go to DC. You were going to have that show with Jake Tapper, wasn't you going? No.
Just any TJ Hooker was all set up to go. Nothing was confirmed, but yeah,
no, that's true. Nothing was confirmed.
But we had booked a venue. There was talk about going to Austin. There was talk about going to Portland, Oregon back in the day. Speaking of Portland, Oregon. Someone just got published in the Dispatch this morning.
Yeah, I did. So I wrote one piece for the Dispatch about 2 months ago about Donald McNeil and the whole Nicole Hannah-Jones thing. And I like them over there. Really nice people. Really like my editor over there. And she contacted me about 2 weeks ago and said, hey, what do you think the business climate is there in Portland? If you've had basically stuff being smashed up every night, not in the same location, but are you going to feel super confident? It's like, well, they didn't smash my block today, so I guess I don't have to worry. But when it's 500 nights running or whatever it is, you're going to start worrying. And downtown, really, I got to tell you, downtown has become ghosty and gross, really gross. So she's like, what are people thinking? Are they sticking? Are they going to invest? Are they leaving? And I actually knew something about this because I've had a lot of people come to me and saying, I'm leaving, or no, I think it's okay. I feel optimistic. So I did a little piece, posted today, and it was really mixed, which was interesting. There are people that are like, I see green shoots. I feel confident. I think, it's a young city. People make shit. It's going to come back. Other people are like, I'm out of that shithole. And I am so glad. And I have to say, I had some interesting comments, and they're, really astute comments, not super just mad, like, what are you talking about comments? But what people were saying is like, sure, of course, the city will rejuvenate, but it's going to take a long time. It is not going to bounce back tomorrow. People have lost too much money. There's too many holes. The downtown has lost about, I think it's about an eighth of the businesses for good. And then so let me ask you, our six listeners out there, our viewers out there. I mean, if you had $500,000 to invest in a restaurant, which is like the minimum of what just like a basic little restaurant's cost, are you going to be like, Portland's the place, man? Feeling like that's my place. I mean, I wouldn't feel that way, but I've already kind of done that, and so I'm curious, but let's see. It's getting some really interesting comments over there, so go check it out. It's at the Dispatch. Dispatch.com or whatever.
Speaking of comments, didn't Jenna Libertarian say that we were doing the live chat wrong last time we did something like this? That we weren't reading correctly?
There's something to do with refreshing.
Yeah.
But I actually just don't think anyone's here. See, last time we were wrong. Right. I'm sure we're right this time. Okay. I'm sure we're.
There's 11 people here right there.
Okay, I don't know if someone typed something. Now. 12. Okay, so someone typed something, and if it doesn't show, just like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
There's a little question mark there.
What is that?
Means something. That's
you're with.
Oh no. No. Don't click things. I told you about clicking
Don't
things.
touch it. It's gonna go off.
One thing that I noticed, every time the decennial census comes out.
Oh, what? That's not a real thing.
This Coke is it is really gross. I don't know why I had it. It's interesting to look at what states gain and lose population over time. And the thing about Oregon that actually surprised me is that Oregon gained a seat.
They gained a seat.
That's basically the only lefty state to gain a seat. Colorado, I think, gained a seat, North Carolina, but those are kind of purple states. Oregon ain't no purple state. It is still gaining population, as are, to be fair, all the states that are bordering California.
Around California.
They have the states around California have doubled in population since 1990. But Oregon keeps growing. It's yes, a lot is California refugees, but for a while it was the same people that you wrote about when you first started coming to Portland. It's the people who are like, hey, let's do stuff.
No, let's do something. It's also like, this is the place. This is a place. It's a new enough city. It's a green city, and Portland is really pretty. I mean, I gotta give it that. Like, literally, there is so much fruit just going on the streets, and there's just like all kinds of things to do. It's quite beautiful, and people came there, as I've said before, to sort of achieve their achievable dreams in a beautiful place. It was going to be green, it was going to be progressive, it was going to be affordable, and that kind of, for a little while, actually seemed like it could happen. I wrote about that piece in the May issue of Reason magazine, which is now, it's like 3 months old. The magazine's come out so much sooner, but it didn't. It curdled. We have a very kind of loud, angry bit of population that has been, I don't like to use the phrase control the narrative anymore because we've done it too much, but they really have sort of defenestrated the local government. He doesn't know whether to shit or go blind. They don't know what to do with their police department. It's a problem. I mean, then the weather is nice now again, which means they're going to be out in the streets more, unless they find other things to do. So
it's my contention, and it's just a guess, but as someone who's born and raised in super always growing all the time California, which stopped growing at least any more faster than the rest of the country beginning around 1990, like the mentality switch from always growing, always boosters, always hucksters, commercial people, to stasis, to go the full Japan. Japan's had the same population for going on 30 years, right? Lost 3 decades. Places that have the same number of humans get crabby.
Well, they have hubris. I mean, that's California. It's like, well, no one's ever going to unseat us. We're like so big, and everybody wants to be here, and it'll never change. Well, it changed.
Yeah, Texas
It
is going to
changed.
catch them
Yeah.
in 2035.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they lost a population year over year for the first time in California history last year.
And I don't remember the whole thing with when Elon Musk decided to pull Tesla, and there was some like, oh, was it a congresswoman or somebody was like, oh wow, you think you're such a big deal? It's like, well, I did just take all that money with me too, right? And my employees.
And we're going to Miami, where the mayor is like, busy like gobbling up the tech bros,
Come on,
throwing a big old Bitcoin conference right at the same time that
That's
Trump's
right.
going down there.
That's right. Well, I think they coordinated that in with you. They
Probably.
were like, well, how do we get some
Exactly.
shine? We
Right.
would get the reflection. So I think that we had a super nice guy that we've known at the party on Saturday, Anthony, who is a police officer, who's great. And
Super hot.
oh my God. Oh, he's like one of those handsome people where like you can't look too long. It's like my eyes.
In fact, if those of you who watched Nancy and my wife Emmanuel and Liz Wolf be all dolled up talking about tampons or whatever they were doing
we were
here last time,
organic tampons.
They were like-
suck.
there were for a while there was some dudes hanging out over there, and one of them was me looking bad.
Oh, you look very handsome.
But there was a guy there. It's like, oof, that was him.
Yeah. Anyway, he wrote a little tweet thread the other day. I'm just going to sort of just teeing this up for you, Matt, because you just wrote a really actually quite a beautiful piece that literally posted in Reason like 30 minutes ago. So why don't you tell the fans out there?
So the Gay Pride Parade, the world famous Gay Pride Parade, started here in New York. It was the very first one. Started in reaction to the Stonewall riots, where the cops tried to.
Is that 1970s?
Stonewall was 69. The first
Okay.
parade in March was 70. I don't think it was even called the Gay Pride Parade. There was just like a bunch of gay organizations saying, let's march in the streets and shake our fists at the cops. And they thought that the cops were going to bash their heads in. They were a little bit worried about it. And they found to their delight that people came out and supported them. Like, wait, we can like go out and like show ourselves and be unapologetic and say, we're out and we're proud, and people respond positively. It's a fundamental moment in like gay liberation,
Mhm.
70s liberation, as opposed to the more kind of conservative step-by-step fighting the great long fight that a lot of these earlier organizations did. So Gay Pride Parade this year decided last week on Friday to expel and to forbid any uniformed police officers or corrections officers from participating in the parade or being an exhibitor or to wear uniforms for 5 years.
Question: is it because I don't know? Is it just gay officers that march in the Gay Pride Parade, or is it any officer that marches in the Gay Pride Parade?
I think it's any officer, just as
Okay.
Rudy Giuliani
Okay.
marched in the parade,
Yep.
and people it's basically a must-do for a politician or someone in the civic life of New York, and has been for decades. But it's the first group was, and they had to sue their way to get in, and they
That's right.
didn't sue the parade people. They sued the NYPD because the NYPD was even more conservative than the mayor at the time, which was literally Rudy Giuliani. They did a federal discrimination lawsuit saying you were tamping down on our civil rights by forbidding us from wearing our dress uniforms and waving around little rainbow flags and being happy. And they, before I think even the suit was settled, the NYPD said, "All right, kids,
All
you go
right.
in." So the first people who marched almost certainly were from the Gay Officer Action League.
Right.
Goal!
Goal.
Who did this. So I'm sure that like a vast majority of the people who marched were Goal, and maybe over time more people joined them. Pride decided this week, very much under pressure from people in the wake of the George Floyd killing and the subsequent protests, that we have to get cops out of this event because, in the language of the people saying this, we don't feel safe. Our marginalized people, especially Black and brown and transgender, don't feel safe around such a large group of people, of those who have historically abused us. Now, that is the kind of thing that rolls off the tongue. You hear all the time, I don't feel safe, about this. But like, think it through. Like, if I'm going to do a violence against a Black transgender person and I'm a cop, is it going to be, let's get my uniform on, I'll go to a parade with 1 million people. It's going to be less this year, but you get the idea. It has been millions in the past. in the middle of Manhattan, the most surveilled part of the United States. It's on a televised parade. Everyone's got a cell phone because people are really happy because they're wearing like rainbow lays and getting rad. That's where the violence is
That's right.
definitely going to happen against us. No, the violence happens in massage parlor raids. The violence happens in immigration, INS, and the late night raids. It happens in lots of places, and I am worried about that as well. You don't feel unsafe with cops, beautiful gay cops,
Yeah, as
marching.
Anthony is.
But it's this migration of the word safe to not actually mean safe. There are things to do about people's safety vis-a-vis police, things that Reason has been talking about. We had a special issue on it a few months back. We did one when I was the editor 10 years ago. Very tangible things to do. I think this is my controversial position, and I'm sure there's many libertarian and progressive who disagrees with it, but that it doesn't make criminal justice reform any easier if you tell cops that they all suck and they can't be around you anymore, and especially if you're telling that to the gay cops who had to sue to try to get into your parade.
It is such a cruelty, and it's a cruelty because they can, right? I mean, and it's not just this year, it's for 5 years, which I learned today from your piece. It's a 5-year ban. It's like, I've actually seen the police marching in the Gay Pride Parade, and I got to tell you, it becomes so loud, the cheering for this on the streets, and it is a beautiful thing where everybody feels like this is something we absolutely and 100% support. We are all part of this community, and they are too.
And to have that come, that being the result, at least until this year, of an event that literally began with Stonewall, with riots, because to protest cops cracking down on sodomy laws in the late 60s. New York has a long, terrible history of vice enforcement and messing with people who are just trying to do anything, whether it's like play pinball or sing at a jazz club or whatever. It's a really rotten history. Go read up on it. I think Thaddeus Russell has written wonderful stuff for a reason, and other people have in the past. But to go from there to a place where, that's part of New York. I'm not from New York. Nancy's from New York. New York is weird. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Oh, yes.
But like, there's a parade culture here. Like that's
Yes,
a sign
yes.
of graduation. Is when your group gets the parade.
That's
So
right.
like the Puerto Ricans get their parade, and of course the Irish, and I'm sure the Mexicans have a parade somewhere too. What the hell? Everyone has a parade, but it's like part of the fabric, and we're all living on top of each other. Part of the idea is to kind of collide and like try to figure out a tolerance. If you haven't watched the Colin Quinn New York
It's
stories
so good.
thing from 5-10 years
so
ago,
good.
it's phenomenal. It kind of gets to a lot of that. It's rough. The first Gay Pride Parade, again, it wasn't really called that. They were literally worried that the cops were going to riot against them. And they were like surprised and delighted that they didn't, and that people cheered for them. That's part of the story. In fact, the co-organizer of it, who was only 20 at the time, who was the manager of the Oscar
Yeah.
Wilde bookshop in
Just
the
an
Village.
observer of the violence at Stonewall. Isn't that right?
He was an observer, but then he like went the
Yeah.
next 2 nights, and he'd been in this for a while. What did he do 2 years after starting Gay Pride Parade? He went to become a cop in Connecticut. So it's bros in Stamford, Connecticut. He's a whole career as a police officer, retired as a lieutenant, or he made it to the rank of lieutenant before he retired. And that's kind of the way that these things go. It's when your ethnic group, even the lowly Irish, eventually became cops, because that's what you do
They
to
have
show
the
that.
biggest parade.
Oh
Oh my God, the St. Patrick's Day parade is.
That's disgusting. That's just.
I gotta say, I hadn't been in years. I went a couple of years ago. It was just great. We went up by the plaza. I was with a friend of mine that grew up in Brooklyn with me. We were just like, this is awesome. Always great.
Did you guys have like rich people parades in like Brooklyn Heights, or how did
Oh yeah, definitely. And with tea and crumpets on Sundays. No, we had not. No, I mean the parades that we had there were like fairs down at Atlantic Avenue. We used to go to the San Gennaro Fair. That wasn't really a parade in the Village because that's where my dad grew up. No, there were no rich people parades. What is he talking about? I mean, just to say, I mean, the idea, what I think, okay, what I would think we would all want, what I think most people would want is to have like a better relationship with police, everybody pulling together in the same direction. But you have people that just don't want that. They actually want to continue the distrust and the shredding of the relationship. A friend of mine, a reporter for the Oregonian, put out a piece today, Shane Kavanaugh, where they finally did like a little polling in Portland, like how do the people feel about the police? Because that's all we see, right? Is ACAB and the smashing and everything. 3/4 of the population that they polled want more police, the same or more on the streets. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at
I,
the mayor's race in New York. The two people leading are Andrew Yang, who talks every day about rising crime. It's a huge problem, quality of life. We need more cops. And the other one is Eric Adams, who is a former cop, was the Brooklyn borough president, and also a former Republican. And he campaigns on like, yeah, we got to do something about this crime happening.
well, there's the crime is up. Violent crime is up everywhere in the country. Every major city in the country. I might be wrong about that, but
Not every-
most major
it's
cities.
down in Baltimore. It's down some places.
Well, Baltimore. I'm sorry, it was so high that I mean, no, it was. It's been terrible there. But I mean, when you see this rise in violent crime and you see rise in murder, the how can someone's first thought be like, well, we better get rid of the police? Well, they say that because they say the police is the police are the problem. I don't.
There's something nihilistic about it, and like there are those of us who have long enough memories about criminal justice reform and how difficult it's been to do, and the very different ways and differing philosophies about how to do it. But one of them that was particularly popular, and it actually happened in most large cities, including New York, including Los Angeles, where it was much more difficult probably to do, is that in the wake of the excesses that happened here in the late 80s and the early 90s, and in LA, the Rodney King beating and other types of things, the Rampart scandal even, people like, we want the officers to look more like the people from our community. We need more community policing was a watchword, but also just like, let's have more Black guys in South Central being cops. This was a big stated goal. Our dear friend Camille Foster doesn't agree with my emphasis on that or my support for that because he's crazy. No, because
And not Black.
he has strong ideas about the way that we overthink about race in this country that are powerful and they're definitely worth grappling with. But let's just say for a long time that was a goal from people. We want the cops to be more people from our community. Well, I let's say that I agree, which I do. You want more gay cops. You want more transgender cops if you have any kind of transgender population, whatever group. What are you telling those people or those people who might want to be cops and they're hearing all this from your pride organizers or other people that all cops are bastards and that they think all cops are undifferentiated. You're an indistinguishable blob of potential violence against potentially hate-fueled violence against marginalized communities. Is that going to encourage you to join the force in the first place and also to be, as our friend is and the goal organization are, advocates for reforming policing in the direction that you want? Well, of course it is not. But that is not the game that people are playing, those who have influence on or make the pressure on people making those decisions. It is my view that that they're just trying to limit the number of seats at the table, make sure that theirs is large.
Yes, right. Power. I don't know what Camille's position is, like who should be in the community or not. I grew up in New York City. Cops were, Black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese, women, men. Like as a woman, like I never felt like I needed more women cops to feel like safer or anything like
You
that.
just wanted to look at hot cops.
Firemen. I keep telling you,
I know.
firemen. But I mean, I am maybe not considered part of a marginalized community, so maybe I can't exactly address where they're coming from. But to me, it's like the officer is sort of the, you see the badge and you understand there's a certain responsibility that they have. And I think just so long as they're familiar in a neighborhood, I don't think it really matters if it's Black or white or whatever. Like what you need to do is you need to know that it's Officer Smith or Officer Joe. I don't remember so much in my neighborhood that, but I do remember my father saying to me, like, if you get in trouble, go to Silver Store, John will take care of you. It's like someone you knew. They were familiar to you. So it wasn't just this crazy, as I said, every police officer, every time I have a conversation on Clubhouse, anytime I'm writing about officers will say, our number one thing we'd really like to do is have more of a foot beat or a regular beat, right? Not just show up. You've never seen this person. Maybe you've never been in this neighborhood at all. You're this completely unknown force coming at a terrible time And it's very destabilizing for everybody. But if you have an officer that you know that's on your beat, that's in your block, that's in your neighborhood, I think that helps to increase friendliness and trust, and there should be
And also,
trust.
like, there are civic events where people collide, like, I don't know, parades. And that's where you like meet and hang out. That's it.
That's right.
Like, don't tell people that they can't come to the parade because they're not going to know each other. Like, both communities are not going to know each other.
I think it's a deliberate cruelty. I really do. I think saying no, you can't come here for 5 years has nothing to do with safety. I think it has to do basically with just like because we can. Because right now we have this sort of movement on our side, and we're just going to apply this pressure. I would like to see some metrics. Nancy Rommelman with her finger on the table. I want to see some metrics after this parade and maybe for the next one year, how things became safer by not allowing police officers to march in the gay pride parade.
Yeah, I tell you, I don't think it's even like a plea for safety. It's the feeling of safety among people who feel that they are unsafe if they see police because of the history of marginalization, which is also a reason often given to get police out of schools in New York. And there's this,
Oh,
again, during the George Floyd and aftermath, in which there was a lot of protests and some rioting and looting that happened in New York. There's a big push to get cops out. Now, I think there are very legitimate and interesting reasons to not want to have a large police presence
in school.
in schools.
Absolutely.
And in my experience, and granted, this is an experience of a parent of someone who goes to a relatively affluent school, one of the two girls does. But the cops at the door, and like, so the argument against them is that they are specifically targeting marginalized communities and making people from those marginalized communities. There's a guy named Matt Gonzalez. Go Google him sometime. He's a beaut. Who always talks about this is from a thing called Project Appleseed, I think NYU as well. He's trying to get cops out. And it's because he's speaking on behalf of Black and brown communities that feel marginalized. They're selected, these cops are, by their reflection of the schools that they work in. I mean, it's very overwhelmingly, because the New York schools are largely Black and brown, if we're
Right.
using colors to describe
Right.
school, which is really weird. And so they choose police from that as well. And in our experience, they've been really like diligent, nice Black ladies or Puerto Rican men, basically in all the schools. But like it's the tarring of the same brush. Like, that person sitting there right there makes me, as someone from this community, feel unsafe. I'm sure that happens in some communities, that feeling is genuine. I'm also sure that a lot of people use that word to describe something that isn't actually widespread or genuine. It has just become a term of art used to describe and to kind of elevate certain types of arguments or concerns, and to actually short circuit a more intelligent conversation and consideration of like, all right, what kind of law enforcement do we need, if any, in schools?
Well, that's right. Because if you tell someone, if you challenge someone that they're saying, well, I feel unsafe, then you're the monster, right? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I've said this 5 billion times. Safety, feeling safe has become a weapon. It has. And it's like exactly what you said in your piece so well. It's like, okay, there was literally a quote from, I think, from the New York Times that you cited. She's like, we don't want officers walking behind us in this parade. It's like, are you serious? Do you really think that in the bright sunshine on a parade day, these officers are going to be actually hurting you? This is deranged, and I don't think anybody actually feels that way. I mean, you might have a view. I think it is absolutely a tool to show you that we can get our way right now.
Yeah, and the ease with which that word is used, and then and like sort of acknowledges like a baseline truth, is also kind of a tell that people have recognized its power, and like, great, we can just always say that now.
That's right.
I mean, we talked several times whenever we turn on the cameras here about the Donald McNeil situation in the New York Times, and safety comes up in all of these arguments. Like
Every time.
reporters at the New York Times. Remember, like I don't know, movies about like journalists. Like, were they people who were like, I don't feel safe?
Oh, you had that thing that I tweeted a couple of weeks ago. She actually took the tweet down. She was a NPR reporter. I don't remember her name. I'd never heard of her. And she said, well, my bulletproof vest came and it's a little big. And I thought about like, how sad it is that as a journalist in America, I need to wear a bulletproof vest, and everyone's like, I excuse me. People are like, I reported from Iraq for 5 years, and I did not have that. And I'm like, I was in the middle of riots also. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she actually took the tweet because a lot of people got on her. I was like, what are you talking about? Why are you trying to paint this as like you're in the most dangerous job? And her insinuation was that she was in danger from the police and all the crazy mayhem that they caused. This was what was putting her in danger. It wasn't that she was in danger because she was like just going to get shot in some random murder situation. It was the environment that that the police had created or continued. That was my impression. Did you see this?
Yeah, I did. I didn't. Yeah, I think that it did carry that whiff with it, and
Well,
she better have a beat that is
she didn't.
the crazy,
She didn't.
dangerous.
She didn't. She worked
Yeah.
for like something for NPR. I don't know what it was, but she didn't have that beat. But anyway,
They've seen some shit at NPR, man.
it's rough, man. I could say something snarky, but I'm not. But some people got on her case and she took it down, and I did wonder whether her employer was like, maybe you don't want to be going on record saying like that this is the case. Anyway, and during that same, someone came and asked you and me, do you think that there should be special protections for journalists? 1, 2, 3, say it all at the same time. No.
I used to have somewhat of softness for journalist shield laws. I think 32 states or some odd have of that, and that is mostly a law that says that treats journalists like psychotherapists or something like it makes it more difficult for the government to compel the notes and the tape recordings that we do.
Well,
I think there's an argument for that, and I think at the time I argued in favor of not having a federal shield, but of state by state shield laws. I'm probably less convinced of that now, and more just back to the everyone is capable of doing journalism. So because of that, then let's not put government in a position where
Right.
it decides who and who is not a
well,
journalist.
we've seen this in Portland. Then it's like, oh well, I'm a journalist. Nope, you can't do anything to me. I get to do all these things, and you can't arrest me, and you can't do anything because I'm a journalist, and you're not, right? Or whatever. What's a journalist now, right? Me. All right. So what else? Is there anything else you need to say about Miami?
No. If you're interested in going, try to buy a ticket. Good luck.
Yep.
And it's going to be fun. But just in general, like it's going to be it's going to be Gen X summer. It's going to be hot girl summer for all of us.
Man, I'm taking off all my clothes right now. Yeah, and if you heard my little list of where I'm going, if you think you're going to interface with me, I'm actually going to be spending like a kind of chunks amount of time in Tulsa and Austin. So hit me up, Nancy Rom on Twitter. Okay, and go read Matt's piece and go read my piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Bye.